Once again, highly esteemed sisters and brothers of Aboriginal, Alkebulan, African ancestry, mothers and fathers of humanity, human civilizations, and culture. I'm your brother, 8GMTN Mwanga, Sadaka Mantu Nemsayu Waset. And as always, I'm wonderfully excited and delighted to greet you, Amani Na Upendo. That's peace and love in the African mother tongue of Kiswahili. I forever thank you for slicing and dicing precious moments of your time to chop it up, mix it up, and to interconnect to another episode of Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind, and by extension, our minds. I know it's been a minute, and that's okay, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to work it out. Brothers and sisters are going to work it out. The primary purpose of this YouTube is not to condemn, criticize, or complain, moan and groan, or weep and whine, but to enlighten minds, empower people, enrich, expand, elevate, transform, and transmute as many lives as possible for the better. With all of the above being said, I take a moment to give a thunderbolt shout out of thanks and gratitude to a great friend, brother, and comrade, the executive director of MC Production Studio, a brother who I have said wears many crowns of knowledge, creativity, expertise, and mastership. The one and only, and second to none, Brother Willie, quote unquote, Mike Check Colbert. It's because of his treasure chest of talents that these episodes are made possible and broadcasted out and from the backwoods, muddy waters, sugar ditches, dirty roads, and mosquito swamps of Greenville and Delta, Mississippi. Our topic for today is Our Father which art in heaven. Yeah, I know that's a biblical verse. Our Father which art in heaven. And even though it's a biblical verse, I think the first verse of what we know of as the Christian prayer, but today we're not going to talk about religion, right? But with that being said, as I said a second ago, our topic for the discussion is Our Father which art in heaven. Think over that for a minute. Our Father which art in heaven. And the two key words there is Father in heaven. And the word heaven means more than what we have been socially engineered and conditioned to think that it means. In simple terms, heaven simply means heaved up. It's a lofty and elevated place. It just simply means he's heaved up. And when you look at the many connotations of the word heaven, it's not just talking about a physical place up above our heads that we generally think heaven means. But heaven also is in our brain. Because what we call the brain sits on top of this human body. So in that aspect, heaven is the human brain. That's a lofty place. That's an elevated place that sits on our shoulders. But anyway, the point that I want to get across, or that I intend to get across today, is to make a correlation between what we call, or what's acknowledged as Happy Father's Day or Father's Day the correlation between Father's Day, the sun, the S-U-N, the Great Pyramid of Egypt or Giza, the pineal gland in our brains, right? I want to show the correlation and state some other points related to that and how they form a what I call a correspondence. And before I endeavor to do that or go into that, I want to read some excerpts of the second principle of the Kabbalion. You know, the Kabbalion, here it is. So, I mean, you can see the title of it. But the Kabbalion is the piece of ancient Hermetic literature that's written around what's called 7 cosmic or natural principles of life. And the second principle out of the 7 is called the law of correspondence. And it goes like this: as above, and you probably have heard it, as above, so below. As below, so as above. And it also has a extended part to it, so as within, so without. So that's the second principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. And a little statement along with that principle says, the great second Hermetic principle, or the principle of Tehuti, embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life and being. This truth is a truth because all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source, and the same laws, principles, and characteristics apply to each unit or combination of units of activity, and each manifests its own phenomenon upon its own plane. So as above, so below. Remember that principle, the second principle of correspondence of the book called the Kabbalion. And that's a book that each of us should have in our personal library and study that book, because the principles that it discusses is a foundation for life and living. It's a foundation for life and living. And that's one of the books that contain the information that's been kept hidden away from the masses of humanity. But if we recall, I got a few notes, so don't focus on me bowing my head and so forth and so on. But if we recall, the summer solstice, that occurred Wednesday, June the 21st at 9:57 a.m. Central Time. And you may ask, what is the summer solstice? How is that important? What does that mean to you and I? Well, just hold your horses, be a little patient. I'm going to try to explain that or make some relevant points for you to consider, and sit down in quiet meditation and reflection and meditate upon those points. That day, June the 21st, was the longest and shortest day of the year, and the first day of what is called the astronomical summer in the northern hemisphere. Bear in mind also, brothers and sisters, the word solstice. Just do some etymological investigation on the word solstice. Solstice comes from the Latin word S-O-L, sol, or sol, which means sun. And the second part of that word solstice is sistery, and that word means to stand still. So therefore, when you put the two words two that meaning together. It means solstice means sun stand still. So June the 21st that we acknowledge and call the first day of summer, or the summer solstice, when the sun stood still. That's when the sun, the S-U-N, reached its highest point in the northern hemisphere, and its revolution through the 12 signs of the so-called zodiac. But that's when the sun, summer solstice, is when the sun reached its highest point, or apex, right, in the northern hemisphere. And that's what we call summer, the first day of summer. Astrologically, astronomically, factually, it's called the first day of summer. And not only the sun reached its apex, but that's considered to be one of the, I won't say the hottest day, but it's really hot that day, or that particular day, and the longest day. That's what's of significance or of importance to us. Remember that also. The longest day and shortest night of the year. June 21st, 9:57 a.m. on a Wednesday. So remember that. Moving right along. A few facts here that I wrote down for my notes that I might be reading from or trying to make these points. It says the timing of the solstice isn't based on a specific calendar date or time. It all depends on when the sun reaches its northernmost point from the celestial equator. The summer solstice occurs at the moment that the earth tilts towards the sun is at its maximum. And I think to be specifically or in detail, you can do your homework on it, is when the northern pole of the earth is tilted at its maximum point towards the sun. That's what gives us the longest day of the year, or what's called the summer solstice. And it is said that in ancient Egypt or Kemet, that the summer solstice coincided with the rising of the Nile River. Check it out. Do your homework. Don't believe me or accept what I'm saying. Do the homework. I'm saying this for you, hopefully to inspire you to do your own investigation on these points that are and correlations that I'm trying to make. Just trying to make a point and inspire you to do some investigation and to see how these points are not just factual points in terms of the universe, but also apply to what's going on inside of us, inside of each of us as individuals. So all of what I'm saying has something to do with what's going on in ourselves. And based on that second principle, the law of correspondence, there is a connection. What's going on inside of us and with us and outside of us in terms of the sun, right? Father's Day, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, or Giza, and the pineal gland that's in our brain, that's heaven, that's heaved up, a lofty elevated place. A lofty elevated place inside of us, or inside of our brains, or on our bodies in terms of our head, corresponds with the what's going on with the sun itself, the S-U-N. And the S-U-N, from an astrological perspective, is considered to be father-son. That's masculine energy. And the sun, S-U-N, is considered to be, or factually, we are told that the sun is the center of our so-called solar system. Remember that. The sun is in the center of our solar system. And all the other planets revolve around the sun. And everything on the planet, or planet Earth, depends on the sun. Father, Son. Think over that. So there's not a coincidence, or ask yourself, is there a coincidence that those who I call or refer to as the wickedly wise established June the 18th as Father's Day? Do we think that they had no idea in its relationship to June the 21st, the first day of summer, or when the SUN, Father, Son, reaches its highest point or apex in the northern hemisphere, and that's masculine energy? Think over that. Ask yourself these questions. Because the wicked and the wise, not only with Father's Day, they manipulate the energy of the masses of humanity on all holidays. While we partying, having a good time, you know, eating this type of food, that type of food, doing what we do on these various holidays, where you have a group of wicked and wise, as I call them. They harness the energy of the masses of people. They perform rituals. You can check it out, do your homework, do your research. They perform rituals to harness the energy that humanity or the masses of people are expressing on these different days, because we've been socially engineered and conditioned to act certain ways, especially on particular holidays. So the wickedly wise function and operate like energy, you can call them energy vampires. Not only do they profit from harnessing monetarily, I can say it, monetize the energy of humanity or the masses of people, but it strengthens them also in other areas of life. It maximizes the continuation of their domination, exploitation, degradation, and control over humanity or the masses of people. Think over that. Think about that. Sit down in quiet meditation and reflection and contemplate over that. Do your homework. I keep saying that. Do your own homework and draw your own conclusion. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid of your own mind to sit down in quietness and reflect on things that your inner self already knows. Wow. But moving right along. At this time, I just want to state a few facts concerning these different points that I brought up about their correlation, and then try to show and tie all this again and bring this little conversation to a close. But a few facts about the SUN. Go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia informs us that the sun itself is a star at the center of our solar system. Father, Son, a star, is at the center of our solar system. Wikipedia informs us also that this sun, this star, is nearly a perfect ball of hot plasma, heated to what was called incandescence by nuclear fusion reaction in its core. The sun radiates this energy mainly as light, ultraviolet, in infrared radiation and is the most important source of energy for life on the earth. That's the main point. The sun is mainly the most important source of energy for all life on the sun, on the earth. Father's Son. Happy Father's Day. Okay? Another fact about the sun, NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also reports that the sun is one of more than 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. The sun, the SUN, is one of more than 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. Okay? There's some more facts that I could say, but that's enough, I feel, concerning the SUN. The pineal gland. The pineal gland. Got a picture right here. And look over that. The pineal gland is in the center of our brain. And remember what I said about heaven. Heaven, a heaved up place, a lofty, elevated place. That's heaven. That's in our brains. So not only is the SUN is in the center of the solar system, but the pineal gland, which is masculine energy, is in the center of our brains, in the center of the heaven of our brains. Okay? Some of us call the pineal gland the third eye, the eye of Heru, and some call it, really in actuality, it's the first eye. Think over there. And real quickly here, in this particular book, your body's natural wonder drug, melatonin, breakthrough discoveries that can help you combat aging, boost your immune system, reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease, get a better night's sleep, and so forth and so on. But this is a great book. It's a lot of vital information in this book. But it's one paragraph, short paragraph, I would like for you to remember. In the exact center of your brain resides a tiny organ called the pineal gland, which is about the size and shape of a kernel of corn. The pineal was the first gland in your body to be formed, clearly distinguishable a mere 3 weeks after conception. That's 21 days. 3 weeks, that's 21 days. 7 times 3, 21. So this powerful gland that's in the center of our brains was formed 3 weeks or 21 days after conception. Another fact. I got this is the King James Version of the Bible. Most of us are familiar with it. I won't say that all of us have read it from the beginning to the end. And if we did, most of us, myself included, we don't understand every word that's written in it. Even though we may have read it from the beginning in the end to the end, and read every word in it. But do we understand the words? Do we understand, or do we ever consider that, which I was expressing to another young lady the other day again, that everything that's in the quote-unquote Bible should not be taken literally. I mean, the Bible itself, really, it's a manual. It's a mystical book. It's written by mystics, and not to be simply taken literally, the way that most of us have been social engineered and conditioned and miseducated religious-wise to take it and to try to understand it. Because to understand it, to take it literally, most passages in it don't make sense. Matter of fact, most passages in it, taken literally, don't make sense. But the book is written, it tells you itself, with allegorical stories, parables, metaphors, dark sayings. I mean, there's astrology in this book. We just have to know how to identify it. There's numerology in this book. And these different tools and aspects of knowing is not of the so-called devil, but was written by mystics for self-empowerment of the individual when rightly understood. A way of understanding oneself as a so-called individual better, and to empower the individual, to enlighten the mind of the individual. More would be said on that at another time. But if you turn to Genesis 32nd chapter, the 30th verse, and it says, and Jacob called the name of the place Pineal, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. I mean, you take time and read the whole chapter. You get a little more feel for the verse that I'm referring to. But that verse Pineal, that's the pineal gland. He's talking about, or making reference to the pineal gland in the heaven of our brains, in the center of our brains, that's formed in the body 21 weeks, 21 days or 3 weeks after conception. Meditate on that. Think about that. Research that. And Jacob called the name of the place Pineal, for I have seen God, divinity, his own divinity, face to face, and my life is preserved. It's a lot go with this. Biologically, what's being discovered of the pineal gland. Ancient people knew about it and made reference to the pineal gland that's in every man and woman, and the benefits that it has when it's stimulated and recognized and activated, because it's a gland for regeneration of the individual. It's a gland for regeneration. That's why the verse can say, I have seen God face to face, the divinity within, and my life is preserved. The pineal gland was activated because it's a gland of enlightenment. Moving right along. if you read certain spiritual writings of spiritual systems, is the pineal gland is considered to be the seat of the soul. And the pineal gland contains, we are told, light sensitive cells that secrete melatonin and control the circadian rhythm of our bodies. Think about that. Secrete melatonin and controls the circadian rhythm of our bodies. Do your homework on that. But I'm making these points for you and us to consider. That is more to this correlation between Father's Day, the sun, the sun, the pineal gland, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Is more to this correspondence or correlation than we have been told. And we living in a time what's called the Aquarian age, where enlightenment is on the increase, and the masses of people are slowly but surely waking up to the lies that have been told, how we have been deceived, and how certain information and truth has been suppressed. But all that is slowly changing, because we have come out of what's called the Piscean age. But the effects of the Piscean age is still with us. It's on his deathbed, but the effects of it lingers on. The Piscean age was the age of deception, was the age of so-called duality, lies, hypocrisy, and so forth and so on. Domination and control by institutions, by the so-called wickedly wise. And so what's going on, there's been a paradigm shift. Think about it, we're talking about energy now. Focus on energy. Everything is energy. You have heard this where it has been said that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So we're talking about energy. You got different levels of frequency of energy, but it's all energy. And those who benefited and controlled and dominated the masses of people in the Piscean age, they know a paradigm shift has occurred, but they seeking to continue their control and domination and profit at the expense of the masses. They seeking to hold on to that domination and control by any means necessary. By any and every means necessary. And bear in mind also that an age consists of 2,160 years. That's an age. The great year is 25,920 years. That's what's called the great year. But each so-called sign of the zodiac is an age, expresses itself as an age which is 2,160 years. So when you total that up, when the sun revolves or come out of one age and goes into another age, which is 12 times 2,160 years, you get the great year, which is 25,920 years. Think on these things, brothers and sisters. Do your homework. Sit down in quiet meditation and reflection on your homework. Moreover, many scientists have discovered that the Great Pyramid of Giza can collect and concentrate electromagnetic energy in its chambers at the base of the pyramid. That's where it collects and gathers most of its energy, at the base. But what's significant of what I'm saying about the Great Pyramid is that it's at the center of the earth landmass. Once again, center, that's what I'm highlighting, is at the center of the earth landmass. And I'm saying, or trying to show, the correlation or the correspondence between the pineal gland being in the center of our brains, the Great Pyramid in the center of the earth landmass, the sun is in the center of our solar system, and all this is masculine energy and is connected with June the 18th, which was established as a holiday. All of this is connected. We must know this. The masses of humanity, the masses of people, as individuals and collectively, we must know this. We need to know, what does this mean to us? What should this mean? And the reason why we should know or need to know, because there's a cabal, a group of wickedly wise globally who are using this knowledge and information against the best interests of the masses of people. That's why we need to know and understand this and see what's going on. Like Marvin Gaye asked the question, what's going on? We need to know what's going on so that we can do like Aretha Franklin said, rock steady. Curtis Mayfield told us to check out your mind. Check out your mind. He had a song called Check Out Your Mind. This is what we need to do. Check out our mind. Check out the lies that we have accepted. Question yourself. Question everything. Why do I believe what I believe? Yeah, every man and woman, you're entitled to your opinion and your belief. How did you acquire it? Sit down somewhere in the quietness of your own home and question yourself. Why do you believe what you believe? How did you come how did you arrive to this belief? Is it beneficial to me? Should I be holding on to it? Ask yourself, like Carter G. Woodson asked the question when he wrote the book or made the statement, the miseducation of the so-called Negro. I keep bringing these books up and referring to them because these are standard books, they're standard knowledge, foundational knowledge that we must build, raise ourselves up on. So I might say certain things repetitiously. That's not an accident that I do that or that the Spirit moved me to do that. It's for a reason. It's for a positive and progressive reason. Ask yourself, have I been miseducated? Have I been deceived? By who? And if I have been deceived and led astray, like Malcolm X said, bamboozled, ran amok, and led astray and all that, why? How did I let this happen? Or did this happen behind my conscious knowing or conscious awareness? Did this happen in the deep recesses of my subconscious mind that the Bible speaks about? The Bible calls it the heart. It's making reference more times than not, in a spiritual sense, it's talking about the subconscious aspect of the mind. That's the heart. And you read, or we read, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can check it out for yourself. I think it's 51st chapter of the book of Psalm. I think the 10th verse, where it refers to create in me, oh God, a clean heart, a clean subconscious mind. Because what's planted in the subconscious mind, if it take root, it comes back. The subconscious mind doesn't ask questions. That's why we have to, it says, stand watch and guard the subconscious aspect of the mind. Think over that. Moving right along. Another point on the pineal gland, or the first eye or third eye. The ancient Kemetans or ancient Egyptians, they refer to it as another name, as I stated, the eye of Heru, but the winged sun, Heru Bedet, Heru Bedet, B-E-H-D-E-T. The E sound like A, Bedet. And it symbolizes divinity and royalty and power. Wow. Moving right along and keeping in mind, we bring this little episode to a close very shortly. We'll turn to Isaiah, the 19th chapter, 19th verse. Real quickly here. I can read it. I got it written down also, but it says, when you turn to it, get your Bible and find that chapter and that verse, that book, it says, in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, Kemet, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. But when you read it to yourself and get a great understanding when you read it, but that's talking about the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's right there in the book of Isaiah, 19th chapter, 19th verse. It's talking about the altar to the Lord. It's talking about the Great Pyramid of Giza, which I stated earlier, that's in the center of the earth landmass. That's not by accident. Have you checked that out? Have you investigated that? Have your minister gave a sermon on that or a lecture on that? If not, then what? We go and do our own investigation and then ask the question why we haven't been told these things. Isaiah 19th chapter, 19th verse. An altar to the Lord. A pillar. That's the Great Pyramid of Giza in the center of the earth landmass. I'm kind of reiterating because I'm bringing this to an end, this little talk or conversation to an end. And I stated that heaven means heaved up. Heaven, in this instant that I'm talking, or referring to it more esoterically, or a deeper aspect or connotation than just what we commonly been used to on the surface. Heaven is a heaved up place, a lofty and elevated place. That's our brains. That's the human brain. In the pineal gland, that miracle gland, quote unquote miracle and magical and magnificent gland that we need to know more of and more about, is in the center of our brains. Corresponds and correlates with the SUN, Father Son, which is in the center of our solar system, and all the other planets revolve around the SUN. And we got 12 cranial nerves in our brains that revolve or extend or around the pineal gland. 12 cranial nerves. Think over this correspondence, this correlation, this masculine energy. And while you're doing some homework, investigate also that the third chakra, which we call the solar plexus, or the Manipura chakra, that's translated in English, the English word, that's solar plexus. That's no accident either. Solar, that's sun. Solar plexus, third chakra, Manipura chakra. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, it has many extended names or connotations, but that chakra, Manipura, simply means, they use different words depending on who you're reading, but luxurious gem. Luxurious gem, the solar plexus, the fire energy, the solar energy that has a lot of biological function and operations inside the human body. Along with the masculine energy of the pineal gland once it's activated. All this corresponds, once again, with the Great Pyramid as being the center of the earth landmass, the SUN, and so forth and so on, what I have already stated. So think over these points, sisters and brothers. And there's more when you do the homework and investigate this. You will see more, and you will be amazed, and you will be, some of us will be shocked and surprised by what has been kept hidden from us as individuals and the masses of people. And on a final note, you can turn to Matthew. Let me find it right quick. I think it's the 6th chapter of Matthew, starting at the 21st verse, and I'll read it right quickly. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. But the 22nd verse says, the light of the body is the eye, the pineal gland. The light of the body is the eye, pineal gland. And refer to Genesis 32:30, where quote unquote Jacob made reference to the Mount Pineal, pineal gland, and said he had seen God or divinity face to face. That's enlightenment. And his life was preserved. And that's making reference here also again to Matthew 6 chapter 22nd verse. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single eye, first eye, pineal gland, thy whole body will be full of light, full of enlightenment. Enlightenment. For what? For regeneration. Life being preserved. That's regeneration. Not to just express that energy that we find at the base of the spine, was called by many names. I think in India is referred to what most of us are accustomed to, the Kundalini energy, but the ancient Kemites or Kemetans referred to as the Uraeus energy. And most of us, we see images of it with a snake coiled three and a half times around the base of the spine. And when I say snake, we run from that because we've been conditioned to run from that. That's something evil, but it symbolizes something. Snake in most literature just symbolizes rebirth, regeneration, eternity. Because what's unique about the snake? It sheds its skin. And it seems to be reborn again. That's all that it means. Basically, that's what it means. Had nothing to do with no hoodoo, voodoo, hocus pocus, and all that kind of stuff. It's symbolizing regeneration, rejuvenation, rebirth, regeneration, as I stated. That's the main point. Preservation of the life of the individual. But that's when also, because we have work to do too, not to waste what the Bible talks about and other spiritual writings refer to, or wasting the God seed. Each of us, since the moment of purity, right now today, we receive one quote-unquote God seed. We didn't notice and find out. One God seed per month. Man and woman. We also, we have a spiritual cycle. Not just a woman having her so-called menstrual cycle, but this is a spiritual cycle. Once a month, each of us, since the age of puberty, receive one quote-unquote God seed, a psycho-spiritual seed per month. And when we know this, to preserve that God seed at that time, it should not be, as the Bible says, wasted in so-called sexual intercourse. Particularly at that time, because that kills the God seed. Overeating, alcohol, and so forth and so on kills the God seed. When we need to know when we receive that God seed. It's in books. It's there. The knowledge is there. But since many of us don't know this and don't think about the seed within us or that energy, we just waste it anytime, anywhere, anytime. And that psycho-spiritual seed, God's seed, is supposed to be raised up, heaved up to the pineal gland. That's giving 1/10 of offering to the Lord. It had nothing to do with money given to a church. But that's knowing that we receive this God's seed and it's not to be wasted and given up. So brothers and sisters, think on these things and do your homework and research and find out the correlations and the correspondence between what I just stated or what I endeavored to bring across, and reflect on the correlations and correspondence between Father, Son, Father's Day, our Father which art in heaven, the heaven of our minds, the pineal gland in the center of our brains, the correlation between the center of our brain with the pineal gland, the sun in terms of the center of the solar system, in the earth landmass, the Pyramid of Giza being in the center of the earth landmass. Reflect on all of this and consider for a moment that we're dealing with energy. Someone or a group of someones have a vested interest in harnessing and maximizing for themselves the energy of humanity by any means necessary. So brothers and sisters, I appreciate your moment for slicing and dicing and chopping up and mixing it up at this particular time on this episode. And I know that it's been a minute since I sat behind this table and tried to deliver a message. But here I am. And like what's that track star, the female Shakara Richardson that many people are talking about now, you know, she had her ups and downs, and I think one of the news people asked her, say, "Are you back?" She said, "No, I'm not back. I'm better." So this is what we endeavor to do, to pick up where we left off and to do better, because we still on the journey of making this YouTube channel Renew Your Mind, Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind, and by extension our mind, to make it into a masterpiece. This is our goal. This is what we endeavor to do, to become master craftsmen of this channel, of this program, which is an educational program. You know, a program to, as it was said at the beginning, to enlighten minds, to empower people, right? And to enrich, expand, elevate, transform, and transmute as many lives as possible for the better. So with all that being said, and much more that could be said, and there's much more that needs to be said, and there's much more that will be said. Until next time, Amani na upendo, peace and love, Ubuntu, I am, because we are, and because we are, therefore I am.